What is up, para peeps? How are you all doing tonight? You doing good? Hope everybody's good. So it's what is it? It's Sunday night again. It's this week. I had a customer come into the shop and he bought some wrapped flowers. And I told him the joke and he said, time just seems like it gets faster and faster. And I said, well, I heard somewhere it's like time is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes. How's everybody doing? That's something we're just not afraid to talk about here on the show. All these wonderful people in this chat. I was watching the chat and go, ooh, let's put the pop-up up. I don't know if we've got this activated. Will it come up? It should show the comments up on the screen. Maybe I need to back out and bring it back up. But anyway, maybe their button's busted. So how's everybody doing tonight? Let's see. Oh, there it is. There is everybody. I see uncommon belief. Look at there. Look at there. See? There it goes. Here we go. Choo-choo. Hey, that's not me, Ted. Safety belts, as far as I know right now, you do not have to have your seat belts fastened. How's everybody doing here? Vixen Doe, how's it do? How's it go? Is it going? Good. I haven't seen you I feel like I've seen you, but we haven't talked. And I feel like the time goes by so fast. I see things and I want to stop and say something and I forget something else happens and everything. So I just wanted to stop and say, I love you, sweetie. Thanks for being here. And Ted, it's good to see you. Wonderful to have you. Wonderful to have you. Bernice, good to have you, honey. So listen, who joined us? I want to hear, while I'm saying hi to everybody, throw up your thoughts on that last movie we saw on Tuesday. What was it? Oh, gosh. We saw so many. I know we had a bonus. We watched Spinal Tap together. What was the movie we watched Tuesday? I've already forgotten. What was it? And let me know if you're over on YouTube. Are you over there, Henry? No, you're on Rumble. Let me know because I've lost my screen to watch YouTube. So if there's some shenanigans going on over there, I should be aware of. I can see the chat. Mothman Prophecies. That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, darling. I appreciate it. Yeah, wow, that was crazy, right? So in chat, it was great to have everybody in there because I could get in there after Steve and I did a deep dive on Mothman Prophecies, and he's actually met John Keel and some other people that were involved in the case right now. Their names escape I wouldn't want to get them wrong. And they've escaped me at this moment. But Steve's got a lot more knowledge on, the whole John Keel coming into the Mothman Prophecies and Indrid Cold and all that. So I had to really deep dive research on it. So it was neat watching the movie. I saw it when it first came out, and it was like I didn't really get it because I really didn't know the story. And Richard Gere, okay. And so I wasn't really drawn to it. It seemed kind of weird. It was psychological, and it was the flashes, it was the red eyes, and what's her name was having his wife, and she's having visions and drawing pictures, and it was one of those things. But now then I researched it, and I went at it from the Point Pleasant, Ohio experiencers, boots on the ground kind of thing. Got some more insight into it, then dug into the John Keel, Indrid Cold, and the Mothman and all that kind of, and then watched the movie again and could pick out what was going on there. And I also listened to the director's cut, sitting with who was it? I think John Keel, if I remember correctly, he had died. He knew he was going to be talked about in the movie. He knew about the movie, but I think he passed just before it came out or something along those lines. Don't quote me on that. But there was something going on around those. Anyhow. So watching that movie and understanding that some of the characters were actually a combination of real people, 4 or 5 real people or 3 or 4 real people. The Richard Gere was Keel, as a reporter, but the professor was Keel as a researcher and somebody who understood cryptids and entities and ancient beings and things like that. And it had almost driven him crazy, and it cost him things in his life and promotions and all kinds of other things. So it was neat coming at it in that direction, but also know that it was a lot more that went on in real life than just the movie. The movie had a hard time portraying, or let's put it this way, let me rephrase that. The movie had, I would imagine the movie had a hard time putting a visual with some of those experiences and what was going on in people's minds and the craziness of it. Of course, one of the scariest scenes being when Indrid Cold or whoever would call up on the phone and Richard Gere would answer it, and he would like tell him things about his life and things he was doing in the room and places he was putting his chapstick, and we won't get into that. So anyway, good movie. It was good to get in there, and it also emphasized the importance of the live chat when we're watching the movie. So you've got to get over there to Rumble. It's free. Join it. We need a couple of more followers over there, and we'll be in the next category, whatever the heck that is. Okay, we'll see what that gets us. But we're just moving along. We're just pushing through. Hey, Scott, good to see you. Lisa, it's good to see you, honey. It's good to see you. So what are we talking about tonight? Doc, did I say hi to you, hon? So hit the like. If you want to become a member over there, we're still coming up with ideas for that. I've had some ideas. I got lazy on some. I dropped the ball on others. I decided to change my mind on something else, and I had a better idea. And then, so I'm working on it. Just bear with me. But I will never put anything behind a paywall that, having a guest or something like that. Go, ooh, we'll tell the rest of the story over here and, behind this. No. It's not happening. If you want to help me out, that is awesome. And I love my members over there, and I love everybody that gives me a super chat or a rant or anything, because I put it in there, I build it up, and if I can't ever if it's rough to pay the StreamYard or the internet or something like that, I dip in there and get it done so I can do the shows. That's the main thing. There's some that are real important to me to get done. It's just, and some are just fun, like tonight. So I thank you all. I do not, again, know what's going on with the mods. So if you've got your shields back, I've put it in twice now. They want exact spelling. So if you've got 9 numbers behind your name and, a dot in between something else, and I get it wrong, they won't accept it. I have to go back and do it again and again and again. And I've put it in 3 times now. So I don't know who's got shields and who doesn't. There's about 4 of you that are supposed to have them. I know mods on my Rumble. If you don't have them, please let me know. But I'm working on it. All right. So again, get over there, join the Rumble, so you can watch the movies with us and get in this cool chat. Because again, that was a wonderful example, Mothman Prophecies, of being able to be in the chat and talk about it and explain what went down. No, John Keel wasn't on the bridge when it went down. No, the cop wasn't in the car number 37. Did people see numbers? Yes, they did. Who did? We can tell the real story behind it with a cool visual to go along the way. And this next one, we are going into, I'm coming up with a name for it. I'm not sure yet what we're going to call it, but finishing up the JFK. I have a surprise for you for tomorrow night, by the way, with Steve and I do. And I think you're going to love it. And I'm excited about it. But I won't tell you that now. So coming up for summer for the movies is I want to do a theme. Yeah, of course, summer theme. And without a doubt, 4th of July belongs to Jaws. The shark gets 4th of July. It's earned it. But I'm gonna do like John Carpenter weekend, things like that. There's a couple of really good John Carpenters out there. I mean, really good. We've already seen The Fog, and but there's a couple other good ones. So anyhow, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a welcoming in the summer. Bite Me Summer, something like that, for vampires. So the first one we're going to see is one I love. It's different. It's starring Bill Paxton, and it's called Near Dark, and it's a good vampire flick. So throughout tonight, also, we've done this a couple of times in other shows. I want you to put in your recommendations for the vampire movie you'd like to see during Bite Me Summer. Okay. And we will watch it together on Tuesday nights on Rumble. So get over there and become a Rumbler. Damn it. Just get over there because you're missing out. You can get in there. We can talk about I was thinking about, I'd like to pick one vampire movie that tries to stick to the rules. Meaning, does Interview with a Vampire really do that? Kind of, sort of. Some are made up. At least they're not sparkling. The vampires don't twinkle. It's never been one of my favorites. I know we've talked about this before, and definitely Dracula is one of my favorites because I think it sticks to the rules, if you know what I mean. I like those because they're more learning experiences. I'd rather watch something like that than something that's wholly made up out of like nowhere. I don't mind things like Dusk Till Dawn, love it. Near Dark, 30 Days of Dark, 30 Days of Night, or I can't remember the name of it, but you know what I mean. But when you start getting into like, Blade, or different ones, I'm just like, okay, no. Dracula 2000, not so much. Do you see where I'm coming from? I'd rather have an older version. Nosferatu was recommended. I believe Scott, you gave me a link to that. Thank you for that, by the way. But it's also being able to find good, clear versions of it. And thanks to my friends who always send me links for certain movies so I can share them with you. So that's enough of that. Tonight, I thought it was kind of cool because Steve inspired me. Steve's been writing little songs for me. And, I play them for you, Rusty Lily White. And I'll give Steve a phrase. And he works hard. He puts it together, and he might come up with a song or whatever. And I've been working a little bit with AI. I'm not going to buy any new fancy AI app software and all this. I'm not going to do it. I just try to keep my bills at a minimum. Just, aim small, miss small. And so I just, mess around with what I can get a hold of, right? So I decided, I sat down and I was thinking about, supernatural, paranormal, how long I've been looking for answers in certain things. What are my big questions that are still out there? If you sat down and asked yourself that question in the paranormal, supernatural, metaphysical, where are your big questions at? Where are the ones that are still hanging out and, where you don't really even have a good theory that you feel comfortable with? You're just kind of, I can't explain that. That's insane. Where are those for you? Because I have them still after 50 whatever years. Because that's the nature of the beast, right? You know what I mean? Everybody got tea? So you be thinking about that. Be thinking about vampire movies. We've have Nosferatu's thrown out there, 30 Days of Night, Dusk Till Dawn. Love that. It's a decent enough movie to consider. And some more traditional ones. I really haven't decided much. Tell you the truth, I'd rather do Dark Shadows over Interview with a Vampire. Although Interview with a Vampire does try to stick to some Anne Rice, took a lot of liberties, but she was at least surrounded in the feel of the whole thing. You know what I mean? She was around it in New Orleans. So anyhow, and oddly enough, we're going to talk a little bit about another famous case in New Orleans too. So think about those things. I want your recommendations. Scott, I have yours. We'll put them on the list. And again, we might put them on a wheel and spin it. I don't know. We'll think of something exciting to do. Maybe we'll draw them out of a fishbowl or something. So if we can contain the excitement. So that being said, what else did I have to tell you about? Tomorrow night, Steve and I have special guests. It's going to be great. Really good. And what else? What else? What else? Near Dark. We talked about that Tuesday. Okay, so what are we talking about tonight? Oh, so where are your questions hanging out in the paranormal? What do you still like intrigues you enough to where you're still digging? What section are you still really intrigued by? Like some people, it's, does Bigfoot exist? It might be other cryptids or whatever. It might not even be ghosts. But for me, in the ghost realm, it's the things that you see because it's happened to me in several different ways. May have very well happened to you as well too. Shadow people, Renice. Yeah, boy, that's a good one. That's a good one. Put that one right out there. Yeah, it's like wow, just more question marks than anything else, right? Fear, the Fearless Vampire Killers. You can find a copy. Okay, we'll put that out there. I have to look into. It. Fearless. Is it Abbott and Costello? Is it Don Knotts? The Ghost of Mr. Chicken. We watched that at Christmas. That was an excellent movie. We'll have to watch The Incredible Mr. Limpet one night, maybe for another holiday or whatever. I try to stick to paranormal, supernatural. I want to do a whole thing on werewolves. I want to do Howling and oh gosh, there's so many good werewolf movies, Silver Bullet and different ones. But I think that'll be fun. Haunted house. There's the creepy houses and there's the satanic panics in the 70s, Run with the Devil and Crowhaven Farm and Rosemary's Baby and all those kind of crazy ones. And then has anybody here ever saw Prince of Darkness? That's a John Carpenter, isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. I think it is. I think it's one of his early ones. Froze, don't you? I think it is. Prince of Darkness. It will freak you out. I mean, it's almost too intense. I mean, it really is, because I don't know who's out there watching what. And, some of you could be walking the, tightrope. I don't know. And I don't want to, because I mean, it's psychological. It will get in there and scramble some things. You got to be hanging on tight when you watch that one, because it's so true. It's so true. It's kind of like watching Fallen or I would say Exorcist for sure. Those kind. Do you know what I mean? Not that it's so gross or so bad or has like a slasher thing. It's just too evil real. Okay, Froze, you agree? Absolutely. So there you go. And am I right about what I'm saying about it? I mean, it's intense, is it not? And a little close to home, if you know what I mean. It's intense. And that was, gosh, what was that? 80s maybe? 80s, I think. And I think it was John Carpenter too. Are you saying it was John Carpenter? Or I don't know. I need more, Froze. You got to give me more. All right. So anyway, this one tonight is one of mine. It's how in the hell do they make it look like something is on fire and you can feel the heat and you can see it and it's as real as all get out, and then gone. It happened to me. I was there. I was right there when it happened. And it happened, as I said, instantaneous. Flames everywhere. You feel the heat. You could hear the roar. You could hear the crackle. You could hear it feeding on the air around you. And then all of a sudden, nothing. Gone. Think of Poltergeist. We watched that one. See, this is why we watch these movies. This is so cool. So Poltergeist, what does the guy do? He goes up to the mirror and he's tired and he's rubbing his face, and all of a sudden his face starts peeling off. And he sees this. Now, I don't know, at the time they didn't make it clear. Did he feel it? Hey, Kat. It was. Thank you, Froze. It was John Carpenter. Thank you. It felt like a John Carpenter. You know what I'm saying? Especially the music. His face starts peeling off. They never made it clear whether or not he he could feel it. because to me, if you're in the mirror and you're peeling your face, you're freaking out because of what you're seeing. But did he feel his face? But I mean, because, oh my God, right? Then he turns right, that goes away. And then he turns around. I think he was making a steak, and the steak starts to move across the counter or whatever it was doing. I know it had maggots in it at one point. Again, showed us in Lost Boys, another movie we watched on a Tuesday night movie. And Ace was messing with Michael and saying, "How are the noodles, Michael?" And Michael looked in the cup, and it looked like it's maggots. And just spitting it out. And there were maggots in the ground. And then all of a sudden, phew, noodles. Has anybody ever had these experiences where you actually see something that is not there? And I mean really see something that isn't there. A ghost or some type of energy that you have bumped into has manipulated what you're seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling. And I think you have to bring that into the category that all the senses, right? So we would have to probably bring in that I smelled lavender, I smelled roses, I smelled sulfur, I smelled smoke, I smelled cigar smoke, tobacco smoke, pipe smoke of a specific kind. You know, I know it was cherry wood tobacco, like Grandpa smoked, that kind of thing. So how does that work? And what are some cases that you can think of that really blow your mind, that bring in all of those things? Have you ever had an experience that did something like that, brought in a physical thing that wasn't there? I've had it happen several times. I just told you about one. I've had another one where I've actually felt my great grandmother's hair. Actually felt things, tasted things. Like when you have a dream and you can smell and taste and you feel things, you feel the emotion, you could taste the strawberry shortcake, cupcake, whatever it is you're eating. Do you see what I'm saying? Let's see what y'all are saying. Nothing like that. I feel you, Henry. You know, I don't know if it's in the category of, even if you see an apparition, or as you, Renice, you mentioned the shadow people. Is that in that category? It's really not there, and they're making us see that? They're making us smell the lavender before they show up, or whatever it is, the tobacco, the sulfur, the stench of whatever it may be as part of the experience, right? PCP. And again, is it like a hallucination? Is it something, some way that they've learned to manipulate? So I started thinking about what would be in that category. What would you put in that category? I would bring in the Telly Savalas ghost story. To me, that's like one of the ultimate. It's got everything. Dude was actually riding in a ghost car. He sat on something. It wasn't just in his head. It wasn't just a picture manipulated. Hey, John, welcome in. It wasn't just a picture. He was handed the money to pay for the gas, or the guy paid for the gas, either way. The gas can, the car, the drive, the ride itself, the note the ghost wrote. I'll give you a ride. Right? It all connected in. It all added up. Plus, it didn't really end. He came to him other times and like predicted little things that's going to happen in the future. In this case, he happened to come to him right before JFK was killed and said something happened in Dallas. And then Telly heard about it after the fact. And when he showed up, it was right after the shooting. So, wow. I think that would come in under the heading of these chaos visits. This in time of need of information, not just in time of need in a physical need, like you're stuck in a tight spot. I think it also has an emotional need and a time of journey. Like, where are you on your journey? We talked about this before in the episodes we've done on guardian angels and spirit guides. We've talked about how certain spirit guides with specialties come into your life in certain times, right? Change up or, come help out, jump in, right? So, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the chat, but I'm kind of sitting back far. I have to move them closer. So, the confusing thing is, how big do you want to make this? What do we include in this question? In this question, I would say, since I'm creating the question, I guess, I would include all of these things: the chaos visits, the interactive hauntings, where they're there to maybe help you out through a situation. Maybe they're trying to show you something. Maybe they're trying to get you to see something. Like, look, this is what happened to me. This also, I've experienced that. That could very well be in this category too, Vixen. Absolutely. Because, all right, another experience of mine, if you're familiar, you've been around since the times you heard me tell the story of what I would say was almost a ride from an angel or a spirit guide. Was that a time of need? Absolutely. Was it divine intervention? Sure. Definitely. I wouldn't say that I made like a complete turn one way or another, but it definitely gave me strength and gave me pause to think about choices that came up next. Let's put it that way. And I've never forgotten it. So it was extremely profound. But it wasn't as profound as, say, well, let me take that back. It wasn't the same as when I almost walked in front of the bus and invisible hands grabbed me by the shoulders and pulled me up and back and put me on my butt on the sidewalk as the bus went. I was like, whoa, and turned around to say thank you. Nobody there. Or when I got pulled out of the ocean. So you see where I'm going? What's divine intervention? I think any of those things could very well be, because, the all-knowing, all-seeing, omnipresent being of light that we talk about as being divine could intervene with a spider or a cardinal or a phone call or, something to avoid an accident, 10,000 different ways, right? But I guess what I'm thinking more, when I brought this up is, again, like the Telly Savalas story of, what was that? There was so much involved in that one ghost story. Here he is, broke down on the side of the road. We've all heard the story. I've played it here at least a dozen times over the years. And he gets picked up by this ghost. A guy is dead, talks funny. I'll give you a ride. Picks him up, gets him gas, loans him money, gives him a number to pay back the $1 for the gas. It was way back in the day, 50s, I think. Maybe late 40s. So this guy is riding in a ghost vehicle. The gas was real. The gas station was real. The note was real. The paper he still had in his hand after the fact. Calls the number, gets the ex-wife, finds out the guy died. Gets hung up on, you son of a bitch. What are you trying to pull? Bam. Obviously New Yorker, right? From Long Island. And so, Telly's no slouch, Greek kind of Adonis, kind of character that he was. I ain't taking that crap. He ain't having it either. He calls back, finally talks her in, sweet talks her in to meeting him. And they sit down and find out, yeah, he died. This is his name. Not only is his name, he signs the note. It's his signature. It's his hand. Stop it. It's his signature. It's his handwriting. Verified by the wife. That's his signature. I know that handwriting. Crazy. The reason he's talking funny, this is the only part I find hard to believe, is he killed himself by cutting his throat. That's got to be the strangest way of unliving yourself I've ever heard in my life. Well, I take that back. It would be my top 10, you know. Kind of what, yeah, it's crazy. But apparently so, maybe he was murdered and that's really wanted to come back. Say, see, now I don't believe. Let's investigate that. But anyway, supposedly did it to himself and cut his vocal cords, and this is why he was talking funny. But he appears to Telly in the suit he was buried in. Right. So, has anybody had an experience like that? The closest thing I've had is my ride that I got from the angel dude with the eyes and all knowing stuff and saying the things he said and doing, again, the whole story, it's in my book and I've told it 100 times on this show. So I'll never forget the feeling of not hearing that car pulling off the gravel, the things he said to me as I shut the door, the way he looked, the profound words of, you can't help people. Remember what I said, you cannot help people who don't want to help themselves, That's when I adopted my whole thing is, look, I'm going to pull you out of the ocean. You're going to keep diving in the ocean. You're on your own. I'm walking up the coast, man. Because I'm not going to keep killing myself to pull you out of the ocean. You're going to keep jumping back in. You're going to have to learn to swim or sink or swim. Your choice. So profound it was. I saw a couple of other stories, and I know we've seen them on this show before, of people that have had similar experiences. And you could even bring in some of those hitchhiker experiences. Like, that's why I tell y'all, if you take a ghost story for face value just on whatever they're probably emphasizing in the story, you're missing so much of it. Because if you look at it in say like the Kim Russo way, where they go back with the celebrity ghost stories and they go back and she walks through and she goes, wait a minute, you got it wrong. You were scared, but they didn't want to scare you. This is what they were trying to tell you. You were going through this, this, and this. They were going through this. And they recognized that energy and they were trying to reach out to you, and it helped them and it helped you, or it would have, but we misunderstood it. But now you can understand it. Maybe in the time of your life, this is the way it was supposed to go down. And you had to go through the experience the way you went through it. And now this time in your life, in your journey, you're ready to understand what it really was. And absorb that and accept that and get the full flavor of what that experience really was. That's usually what goes down in the paranormal supernatural. There's so many layers to it. And that's why I think it's such a great exercise to look at true crime and these other mysteries and stuff, because it keeps you sharp. You know what I'm saying? So let's look at a story. What do you think? So I'm going to reach back to our retro TV and pull up a story that I think is perfect for this. Now, I want you to ask yourself as you're watching it, it's obviously going to be an interactive haunting. Is it a crisis intervention? Is it a crisis visit, or all of these new things that people are, these new sayings and monikers that people are throwing on this? A crisis apparition where, you're about to do something or hurt yourself and they show up and say the right thing, and just once you're out of whatever funk that was, you turn around and they're gone. That's a crisis apparition. Paranormal is always coming up with new stuff, right? So, you might not even realize it was, or how badly you needed that in your time of your life. You might be thinking, oh, I'm just going through a regular whatever. I'm in between jobs. I'm in between chicks. I'm in between whatever it is, and you're feeling a little blue, you're feeling down, whatever, but you don't have the information of what they might know if you keep going down this road, what might happen. Maybe you make the wrong choice or hang out with the wrong person, whatever it may be. So it might be a bigger crisis than we're aware of. So don't be too quick to say, it wasn't a crisis, it was no big deal. How do you know? Could have turned into one. Am I right? So think about that. And I think that is portrayed in this first story very well. It also kind of matches up with the kind of hitchhiker thing where, like, a hitchhiker, you pick up somebody and they might say something like, be careful going around the corner. And you turn around, hey, thanks, gone. And then you find out you slow down now because you're freaked out. And you find out there's a big accident around the corner. If you'd been going the speed you were going, you'd have been involved in it. That kind of thing. Those are really quick to find out what the reasoning behind it might have been. It's still hard to explain. And they didn't make you. Does it come under the category if they made you see something that wasn't there? Well, they appeared to you. So the apparition is one. But they didn't set the car on fire. They didn't do. Do you remember our friend? I love this story. We've showed it so many times. I hesitate to show it to you again, but it's such a good story. And it was a young man that was going through a divorce, and he got a condo, and he's starting to get bothered, and it's building. At first, it's really cool, and the bags are floating around, and the lights coming on and off, answering questions and all that. And before you know it, curtains are on fire. He's going from hotel to this to the next, and things are coming at him, and old man tries to stab him and all this. And it turns out it's just this really pissed off old man who's really confused, and he's just a ghost who needs help. So that one is one where he was seeing things that weren't there. The wallpaper was breathing. Faces were pushing out of the wallpaper. I believe there was smells and other things involved. Of course, there was multiple different fires that broke out. Things that fell off the walls, stuff like that. So I think this is a big category, but the micro category involved in all of this is, how in the hell are they making you see that? How are they manifesting something that Telly Savalas can ride in to go get gas for his broke down car? Right? How is he holding the note that the ghost wrote? How is the guy in Devil's Den, who handed the reenactor the tobacco? There was tobacco and then there was the bullets. So there was different ones. The tobacco, let's just go with that one. And hands it to the guy. And it's, cut the way that used to be, and just all this different stuff. How are you apporting that? How are you bringing that in from the non-physical to the physical and making me believe it's there? How are you making me smell the fire and see the fire and feel the fire is hot? It's crazy, right? All right, let's watch this first one. I think this is a really sweet story. It's also really gets under your skin, so it's kind of creepy, but it's also touches my heart because it's truckers, and I was a trucker in the Army. And there is kind of a loneliness, although I did not long haul truck or anything like that. It's just it was a different thing in the Army, trust me. In my job anyway, we had that, but I didn't do that. So when you're watching something like, what was the name of that show? Ice Road Truckers, and you're in the truck for a long time, and it's snowing, and it's just a whole different world. It's just, my brother-in-law was a trucker for 35 years, and it's a different kind of people, it's a tough people, but it's real lonely on the road. And I think that's why we get a lot of these trucker ghost stories and things. But is this a ghost? Would you put it in a category of a ghost? And how is he seeing it? But everything that happened to this guy, a vehicle's there and it's not there. You're having a physical interaction with somebody who's not there. Or are they there? Because it's so mind-boggling. It's so mind-boggling. Let's take a look and see what you guys think. And I'm going to go back over the chat and catch some questions out of there. Where is it? Here we go. All right, here.
Ron Gendry is a truck driver who probably never thought he needed an angelic counselor. But like Kelly, Ron was lonely. There was something missing in his life, and it took an encounter on a windswept freeway to give him hope.
There's a lot of variables to driving a truck. A lot of them I guess primarily weather conditions and traffic-related things. To be quite honest with you, it can become quite lonely at times. I got dispatched to pick up some automotive parts in a suburban area of Detroit. I was asked to be there on a Saturday morning at approximately 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. Upon getting to the destination, I found out that the load wasn't quite ready. So basically what I did was I sat around in the parking lot all day long. Did absolutely nothing. I reread the newspaper several times. At approximately 6 p.m. or 7 o'clock that evening, Saturday night, they finally did get me loaded. Crossed into Ontario, and I ran into a horrific snowstorm. Snow, I remember, was coming at the windshield at probably about a 45-degree angle. There was hardly anybody out on the road that night because the weather was that bad. What had happened then is somebody had called over the CB radio. There was something definitely different or mysterious about this individual. It was snowing quite heavily. The snow, I remember, was coming at the windshield at probably about a 45-degree angle. What had happened then is somebody had called over the CB radio, and he had a southern accent. Somebody perhaps from Alabama or Tennessee, that sort of thing. The driver indicated to me that he was pretty nervous driving in the snow because he'd never driven in the snow before. So I came upon a truck, asked him if that was possibly him, and he said yes, and I ended up driving around him, and he felt a little bit more settled in and a little bit more comfortable following me. I remember telling him, I said, well, just follow my lights just to make sure that you're on the road. But if I drive into the ditch, don't follow my lights into the ditch, right? So I got a little bit of a chuckle out of that. About 15 minutes had passed. He was really dying for a coffee, so I told him, I said, well, we have a franchise up here at a service plaza. We ended up driving in there. I pulled my truck into the rest area, or the actual service plaza. It was pretty vacant for a Saturday evening. I think it had a lot to do with the blizzard. He pulled his rig directly in behind me, and I got out of my truck and met him. He had coveralls. He stood about 6'6", and we sat down. He had a sandwich, and to be quite honest with you, I can't recall what we really talked about. I think, if anything, we basically maybe have talked about the weather and road-related things, and that was primarily about it. He then took his hand, reached over, and touched my shoulder. At first I thought, well, what are you doing with your hand, especially a complete stranger? And I felt this surge, or some sort of an energy just surging through my body. It was almost therapeutic. And at that same moment, this man said to me, well, don't worry. He said, you won't always be alone, and life will get better for you. I guess my initial reaction is that my mouth dropped, and I looked at him and I thought, what are you, a mind reader? And who are you, and where did you come from? Because we absolutely did not talk about myself or personal life. I never really even questioned the individual about what he was saying or what he was doing. I don't know why. I just felt extremely comfortable with this person. Throughout the day, I guess I got a little frustrated, a little agitated, thinking that, well, I just pretty much blew half of my weekend. And also feeling a little isolated and very much alone, because I thought I'm actually going to be going home. But being a single person, there was absolutely nobody waiting at home for me. So I kind of felt a little blue and sort of a combination of frustrated, that sort of thing. After finishing our coffee, we walked back outside, and it was still snowing outside. The gentleman got back into his truck. We agreed earlier that I was going to take him to the Toronto area, and because I had absolutely nothing better to do on a Saturday night, I was going to actually get him to follow me to the warehouse that he had to apparently deliver to. So I waited a couple of seconds for him to get back into his truck. I reached over, grabbed the CB radio, and I had asked him, I said, well, are you ready to go? And his exact words, and I'll never forget these. He told me, he said, well, I did what I had to do here. I will remain here, and may God bless you, and he will always be with you. And I thought, well, that's really strange. That's extremely odd. You spent the last half hour with me, having coffee, drinking coffee, following me on the highway, and then all of a sudden you just don't need my help anymore. So I thought, well, there's not really much I can do. I tried to be a good Samaritan and help this individual along. I released my air brakes, pulled the truck ahead about 10 feet or so, looked in my mirror, and I really thought I was not seeing right. The individual's truck had vanished. So I got out, went around over to the passenger side, and sure enough, he was gone. There's no way this individual could have driven around me or exited the parking lot without me actually seeing him. He vanished into thin air, him and his truck. I spoke to a friend of mine the next day, and she basically came up with an assumption, and she told me, she said, yeah, this individual is your guardian angel. And to be quite honest with you, I mean, I don't know. To me, that makes sense. I really, truly believe that things are meant for a reason in life. And for whatever particular reason, I really believe that this gentleman, or whoever, or whatever he is, entered my life to somehow let me know that everything was going to be okay.
The mysterious Good Samaritan was right. Things turned out okay, and Ron is no longer alone. Both Ron and Kelly's problems weren't life and death. To some, they might appear small in the grand scheme of things. But a seemingly divine visitor shows interest and comforts them anyway. Our theological expert, David Reed, notes that many people with small problems don't bother to pray because they think God has bigger fish to fry. But if guardian angels showed up to reassure Kelly and Ron, this may tell us that the heart of the universe notices all our troubles and does indeed care for all creatures, great and small.
Okay. Love that. Love that. All creatures, great and small. That's the thing. That's what I was trying to tell you in the beginning. I'm sorry, guys, about the sound. I really am. Scott, can you hear, honey? I hope so. There's a couple that are louder. So, again, adjust as necessary, because when it starts out, if you've turned it up for a low one, there might be I put this together today. I'm so sorry. I normally level out the volume, but it's just not as good as some as other times that I've hit it. So be aware of that. And I'm sorry for any inconvenience it may have caused. So that is a great story. This is so similar to my ride. I was in a crisis. I was, if you'd asked me at the time, I wouldn't have said I was dealing with stuff. You're dealing with the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and you just get in this pattern of just handling stuff as it comes, I think we've all been there. It was definitely profound. I would say that the moment was pretty profound, but the situation was gargantuan. I mean, if you ask anybody that's got something going on in their family that's really deep, of course, it just spiderwebs out and affects everybody, right? So, of course, you can see at those times having something like this happen. But most of the time when you talk to the people that it's happened to, if you ask them, was this a profound moment in your life? I mean, before the situation happened, before you picked up the hitchhiker? Would you have considered this a horrid, a really deep crisis that you were going through, or a real bit devastation? Because things happen then too, but emphasis on this one, it wasn't a really what he would have said was a profound moment in his life. He was lonely. He had spent his whole weekend waiting for his truck to get loaded. He didn't have a lot to do. So he's thinking a lot. He was really into his head. He was in a rush to get home and get over what he was doing. He's going through a bad storm, but he had nobody waiting for him at home. If he had had a dog or, traveling with him or something along those lines, it might have been better. Going alone is just such a lonely road to choose. Bum. So my point is it wasn't at a moment of, he lost somebody, he loved, a crisis of he's about, you hear it about, like, sometimes somebody is considering hurting themselves. They might get stopped, an intervention, a crisis apparition, something like that, but not all the time. Sometimes it's these little moments in our life that we have no idea that this is where the crossroad, this is where the choices started. This is where the road started to turn. This is where it started to curve. This is where we, whatever. And maybe we get to see that later. Maybe we get to, oh, that's why. Wow. That was a big deal. I bet you if asked Telly, to him, he ran out of gas. He wasn't thinking about hurting himself or hurting somebody else or robbing a store and undoing his life. He ran out of gas. So obviously he was chosen for a different reason, or maybe he was chosen for who he was and that he would do something about it. He would pass along the information. We may never know. But it's so interesting to see, how are they manifesting all this? How does this guy manifest a truck, follow this guy, lures him in as he needs help? He's the bird with the broken that needs assistance, gets this guy out of his funk. Hey, come help me. Almost like very, It's a Wonderful Life, like, right? Here's, we want to save George from throwing himself off the bridge. So Clarence throws himself off the bridge. Well, I'll just have George save me. Get his mind off of it, right? Because I know what kind of guy he is and what kind of heart he has. And I need to remind him of that kind of thing. I don't know, I'm spitballing, but you get the idea. So he lured him in, making him think that he needed help. Right? Who did? Peter Laws did a great story about Tell Us About His Haunted Ghost. Yes, he did. He did, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, Telly telling it himself is beyond. I would love to know what happened after, because he said there's more story. I'll never tell it, And it was after the JFK thing, and when he showed up at the golf course with the umbrella and stuff. It's just crazy. I mean, this genre never ceases to, amaze me. Just when you think you might have got it figured out, you'll never get my mind wrapped around how in the hell this guy rides in a ghost car. How did I ride in a ghost car? It happened to me and I can't explain it. Was it a ghost car, or was it just a real car that came from nowhere and physically showed up? I get in it. I'm riding. I go to my destination and then turn, poof, gone. Perfectly normal Friday night. No sound on the tires of the gravel. Same with this dude. Don't forget to hit the like, guys, if you're in Rumble. And if you are listen, if you're in Rumble and you're considering following, please do, because you only get to see the movies if you're following me. That's not me, that's Rumble, because I have to keep it unlisted, because I don't want to be monetized. I don't want to make money off somebody else's movie. I just want to watch the movie with y'all. So that's how they set it up, and that's how it works. So, get in there and get to following. All right. So the next one, what's the name of this one? Oh gosh, this one. All right. I guess the reason this fire thing keeps popping up, it seems to be in so many different ghost stories of, especially anything where you're getting more toward the negative side, the negative entities, and whether they're ancient or you know wherever human to begin with. But it seems like human too. Now, where the hell they get this energy to start fires and make you see fire and your face peeling off? And again, don't have those answers. I don't know. And if I did know, I probably wouldn't have the words to explain it, because it's mind-boggling to me. And you've got quantum physics, you got the quantum entanglement and two things. Listen, I asked AI, figured why not? I'm going to Grok. And I threw out some ideas and I said, I'd like to know, in explain this to me in layman's terms, and in what's the popular theories wrapped around these things. And after this next one, we'll take a look at some of the things that I got from what Grok said about this. And I think it's really interesting. Say what you want about AI, because AI could be its own horror story, depending on what rabbit hole you go down. But if we're going to have this, and it's just another, basically looking at it like it's another level of search engine, but you can actually get in there and say, look, I'd like to look at this paranormal story through these aspects, and I want to compare this story with this story and compare the two, and what are the differences and why, and what would the theories what were the popular theories, and then sources and everything. I'm all about it, because if that's going to help me research and help me understand, I've come a long way from the scrawny 8-year-old, cross-legged, probably sitting too close to the damn zenith back in the day, just wishing somebody would tell me a ghost story so I can evaluate what the hell was going on in my life. And I'm sure there's other people, still here that have gone through stuff like that and seen how it's changed in that amount of time in my lifetime, from that to being able to go, hey, Grok, I got a story about this haunting and this haunting. I like to compare the two, and then and it makes for a fun afternoon, I assure you. So anyway, we'll take a look at that, at the results of that. It was kind of neat. And this next story is the fire. And again, I think it's prominent in a lot of stories. I think it's profound because, of course, it's fire. And fire is just so many levels of it. You've got the arsonist levels. You've got the people that just, it's like it's a living thing and it's character and it's all this other, wild stuff. But basically, it just destroys and eats everything in its path. And it's got so many elements to it because it's got the heat coming off of it. It's got the sound and the roar of the flames, and it's got the the smell of what it's burning, and all of those things. So it's very sense filled, I guess, you could say. So that's something big to pull off. And so many people say, okay, well, I walked in the dining room and the whole wall was on fire, and then all of a sudden it was gone. I felt it, and this happened to me. So I guess that's why I'm always picking these stories with the fire thing, because I was there and I can't explain it to you. Do you know what I mean? It was so real, and how I had the sense and wherewithal to just understand at the moment, because I'm still learning now, but this was 30, 40 years ago, and to stop and know what to do, and just, or if you can't get the words out, you just start praying in your head. You just start laying it out. Boom. And by the time I got the first few words out, I'd already put so much out through my, telepathically, that poof, it's just gone. Like it was never there. Like it was never there. That's insane to me. Like I'm a 3-year-old, explain that to me. Because if I had to pick one thing in the paranormal or top 10, that would definitely be in my top 10. How do they pull that off? It's insane. And riding in the car, both of which I've done. And others more than similar to that. So when you start going through those experiences and you think, I was sitting across from this guy. I watched him eat a sandwich. We talked about this and this and that. You know, he was wearing this. Was that an angel? Of course, we have to put a label on it, but I think once you put a label on it, you start leaning towards that, and maybe you're going to miss something. So maybe we back off so much of the label and saying what it was: a spirit guide, a ghost, an angel, whatever you want to say. If we don't just give it a name yet, and we say why did it happen, maybe we'll get closer to an answer. Because it seems to me that no matter what it was, it had the power to do the things it did, manifested a whole damn truck, right? And then made it disappear when it was no longer needed. Very similar to my situation. A whole car with a guy in it. Ice blue eyes. Knew stuff he shouldn't have known. Said things apparently I needed to hear. Have you had it happen? Have you had a short one? Here's a short one. You're going through something. You've had a conversation. It's profound with whatever might be going on in your life at the time, in that moment. And you say something strange, or that person says something strange, or maybe you overhear in the background there's a TV and something is said that's a strange word or phrase or something along those lines, and something is mentioned about it. You've noted it. You've either recognized it or you say, oh, that's a funny word. You move on. You go about your day. And sometime in moment, shortly after that, might be a day, might be a little longer, might be right after. Somebody pops up out of nowhere, right at a profound moment, and says the word. Or something happens and you hear the word or the phrase. So much so that you stop and you go, nah. Yes. Happened to me the other day. And there wasn't even anything profound around it other than, we're just coming out of Mother's Day. My mom always finds a way to say hi one way or another. And it's so cool. It's very cool. Sometimes it's through people. And I've talked about this before. Sometimes it's through people or whatever. I'll be waiting on somebody and it's Mother's Day week and it's getting close to the day. And somebody will bring up, something about my mother or use her name or a portion of her name or order yellow roses and then just say something about, hey, Sarah, how you doing, honey? Just again, it gets to the point where it's so in your face. You can't really deny it. Right. So here, I'll give you an example. I'm working my first Mother's Day where I'm working now. In fact, I was hired Mother's Day week. So just getting to know the people I'm working with, they know nothing about me. Okay, it's 4 years later, they still don't. So anyhow, we're in the cooler, and I'm thinking about my mom because I walk in and we just got an inventory, a shipment of beautiful yellow long stem roses, right? And I'm still the kind of goofball that stops and smells the roses. When I see a beautiful flower, I gotta, whoa, man. As many as I see, I'm still impressed. Well, how could you not? So anyway, I'm in there and I'm seeing these beautiful yellow roses and I'm thinking, man, these things were perfect. These were skylines. They were gorgeous. They had a big, beautiful lemon yellow head with beautiful green leaves, very healthy, thick stem, great big old screw off thorns. It was beautiful rose, long stem, just premium. And my mom's favorite was yellow roses. So I walked in, and as soon as I saw all of them that we just got, I thought of her immediately. And I think, man, gosh, we're close to Mother's Day. How many years has it been? And I said this in my own head. I never said anything out loud. And a girl that knows me from nobody that I happen to work with turns around, looks up in my face and says, "Your mama." And I said, "What?" I had said nothing to her. She just looked up while she's pulling these roses out of a bucket and turns and looks at me and says that. And then as an exclamation point and italicized the whole damn phrase, she says, "Why did I say that?" It was like it was like Whoopi Goldberg and Ghost or something. It was like and she literally went like this with her hand. She goes, "Why did I say that? That was so weird." And I'm like, "I know why you did. Don't, it's all good. It's all good. Just carry on." I got her through it. But it was exactly like that. She was surprised by it. So that, yes, those things. But that's no manifestation. I don't think she manifested the roses. The roses were there. She just used what was around her, assuming. Of course, it could have been a spirit guide doing the same thing. Who knows? You have to go with everything, the feeling, everything, you put it all together. So anyway, that's my point. How in the world are they pulling off some of this other stuff? How are they manifesting? Here's a good one. One of our favorites. Explain to me the Gettysburg College elevator. Explain. Elevator door opens up. Actually, there were 3 people in the elevator. The story told it. The Unsolved Mysteries was one of the first ones to tell the story, and they used 2 people in the elevator, but it was 3. And it happened again, and it happened 2 more times in the 10 years after the fact that Mark and I know about, and I'm sure he knows about more at this point. We haven't talked about it in about a year. For about a year, so I'm sure there's been more. But explain that to me. Elevator door opens up. These 2 administrators they're in the basement of Gettysburg College, and they see a scene on the battlefield of the Civil War. And there's a hospital scene of field dressing, makeshift amputation station, wounded all over the place, people helping the wounded, people giving them water, people running back and forth with gurneys, people screaming for help, the sounds of war. And in this mess of an apparition that they're both sharing at the same time, up to at least 3 people in the elevator that have seen it at the same time. They're all seeing the same thing. One of the doctors, if you could call them that, most of them were dentists back then. They just happened to have some tools and showed up. That's a fact. You can check me. And so true. I wish it wasn't. But he looks up, he notices them, he sees them, they see him. Time slip? If so, whose? Both of them at the same time? Hallucination, mass hallucination? Who's the hallucination? Is it the doctor? Mark and I have talked about this ad nauseum. Carol, too, his wonderful wife. So, is it him manifesting it now? It's interesting to note the fact, and I've said this before on this show, that Mark and I have, in our talks, I've uncovered the fact that that place now, it was a hospital, makeshift hospital, all the buildings there were. But now it's the electrical room. So there's a lot of electrical bouncing around in there. Is there a certain amount of time it takes this one ghost to manifest enough energy to do whatever mamby-jamby it's got to do to make you see that? I don't know. What's happening? Who's got no hot water? No hot water. You got a ghost? You can build your fire. That's the theme tonight. I just worked it in. It's just a little joke. I've been without hot water, so it's not a funny thing. Do you have gas stove? Can you boil water? Can you make hot water? I've had to do that. Honey, I've washed jeans, stomping them with my bare feet in a toy chest once. I ran out of hot water. Boiling the water. The cleanest jeans you've never been worn. You know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. My mom did too. It's better than beating it on a rock, right? You have hot water and you're off grid. Yeah, Scott, but you prepared ahead of time. Scott Scott's like me. We're those kind of people that sit on, prepare for things. When stuff goes wrong, we're just like look for our gadgets. Yeah, he has AC and he's off grid. But it didn't happen for you overnight, honey. You had to work hard to get those things. You had to think and plan it out. You didn't just throw a switch. You worked hard for it. Sarah from a jug. All right. You're doing what? Girl, I hope you're not without hot water very long. I love a hot shower. Those cold showers suck. You might have to fill up the big Dutch oven or something and take a bath like they used to do back in the day. Get you a big old tub, you put it outside, start a fire under it. Be nice. Get you a good view. Maybe the neighbors would too. There you go. I guess that all depends on where you are, because that could be, that too cold for a bath. I understand. I don't know. I've seen some good shots. They were probably selling beer. I don't know. Maybe they were selling soap or something. But guy wearing nothing but some cowboy boots, cowboy hat. I think he was drinking the beer in a tub, snow all around, fire under it, looking out over some mountains covered in snow. He looked like he was having a good time. It all depends on where you are, Sarah. It all depends on where you are. All right, here's the next story. So this one, again, it's going to show a little bit about what I mean by this whole manifesting of something you think you're in, this massive destructive, whether it's furniture thrown around. That's one thing. If there was no furniture in the room and all of a sudden there was furniture and it's flying around, that's what I'm talking about. We talked a little bit about it last week with app porting and, it raining inside of a jail cell and eggs coming out of the ceiling. It's like that. That could be included in these things, but I don't think this is app porting. I think this is something totally different. I mean, maybe the car could be an app port. Maybe there's a combination. The whole point is, I don't know. It's an absolute mystery. So let's just roll the meeting footage and see what you think about this one. Last one was good, right? I love the trucker story. Hiccups.
You do meet people in your life for a reason. Whether you gain anything from it, I think is basically primarily up to the individual. To be quite honest with you, seeing is believing. And unless you actually experience that yourself as an individual,
so true.
It is hard to believe.
So true. You ready?
Sharon was a young woman when she first dabbled with the paranormal. But Greg Cairns claims that he was only a child when he first played with the Ouija board. And that made the demonic forces he let loose all the more terrifying.
I grew up here in Halifax in a family of 5, in a very Catholic family. My sister was a little impressionistic, had got a hold of a Ouija board. And I remember the first time I was sitting there with her, and typically when you did what you kid, you thought you got answers to it, and I'd be darned if I remember what questions we asked. I'd love to know today, given what's happened. But I remember we got answers and laughing at it, thinking how this was strange and funny and scary. And then didn't think anything of it until a few months later, because from that point on in my life, I've had a number of different experiences. Most of them not good. The attic was kind of shaped like the house that you'd see, like a sea captain's house with windows at each end. So as a 10-year-old, when you're going to sleep at night, and you're at that age where maybe you still are a little afraid of the dark, what I used to notice was how the moonlight and the trees would throw shadows on the wall, and how the darkness and light would lay on different objects in the room. When I noticed that the candle that was normally on the bedside table was now on the floor in the middle of the doorway. And it didn't make sense to me. And so I looked around and to see if I was dreaming, if this makes sense. And all the shadows were exactly the same, and I was thinking my way through this, so no, I'm awake. I'm just noticing that the candle's there. And before I could get up to move the candle, the flame exploded into a fireball. And from the back of the fireball slowly emerged a dark figure. And I instinctively knew it was evil. The fireball starts to move towards me. It slowly moved to the edge of the bed, right over top of me. This whole time I'm trying to scream, and my screams wouldn't come out. I finally was able to get my arms free, and I made the shape of a cross with my arms in front of my face. And that worked. In the next second, it's gone. And everything is exactly as it was a minute ago. Nothing has changed. The candle is back on the bedside table. I felt attacked that night. I felt that negative energy, evil. I didn't see the features of the face, but you could clearly make out the shape of a silhouette, jet black, big. Again, you're a 10-year-old, so a lot of things seemed big, but I would fathom 6, 7 feet tall. And this is something that is slowly moving towards you. And you can't move, and you can't scream. And then to the point where it's right over top of you. And I can't explain that. I can't compute that. I can't put that into a category and say, okay, well, that was just a bad dream. You put these things together. And then if you layer in, hey, wait a minute now. We were just playing with the Ouija board 2 months ago, 3 months ago. That's when it really gets you. And you go, well, are these connected? Did we do something? Is there something to the myth of the Ouija board and allowing something negative, demonic, what, to come in? I had one event happen there where 2 of us were in the house. You remember when you're young and you're a teen, back in the 70s, Saturday Night Live had just started to play, and you'd be out, you'd come in, this show was on at 12:30 here, and we were watching that show in the living room. The living room was kind of spooky. They had a lot of old British antiques and the sort of the, loudly ticking grandfather clock. And it had 2 entrances to the kitchen, both of which were no more than 10 feet, so it's literally seconds away. And we were watching the show, and all of a sudden there's a huge crash. And we thought someone had tried to break in the back door, so we both grabbed fire pokers from the fireplace and ran different directions to come and sort of meet this person in the kitchen. And there was nobody in the kitchen, but every drawer in the kitchen, every cupboard door was wide open. And every pot and pan and knife and fork and spoon, everything was on the floor. And this is within 3 seconds, 5 seconds, as long as it took us to get in there. It's impossible for that to happen. And him and I are still thinking, for some reason, someone's broken in, so we're going down to the basement, and we figure the guy's hiding down there. We never did find him. And it wasn't until we came back upstairs 5 minutes later that that creeping thought dawned in your head of, what just happened here? How do you explain that? You know, it's awkward even speaking about it because you think, well, no one would believe that. And again, you're horrified. I don't sleep. You didn't sleep the rest of the night because this happened. I have experienced some other events 4 or 5 years later at a friend's place who lived in one of the older houses here in Halifax, and this guy and myself came home 3 in the afternoon. There's nobody home, and he's downstairs, and I went upstairs to use the bathroom, and as a joke, this guy, a good friend of mine, if you were in the John, he'd run by the bathroom and swing the door open just in case if the sister's room was open, a sister was there, she'd see you on the John. Funny joke, right? So I'm in the bathroom, and the door swung open. And I'm waiting in, the milliseconds, I'm waiting to hear his footsteps run down the hallway or to hear, laughing voice or what have you, and I don't hear anything. And outside the bathroom, I can clearly see an older woman. This wasn't a threatening thing, it was just so odd and so scary to have happen. In the afternoon, I went upstairs to use the bathroom, and the door swung open. Just to be cheeky, I had a friend, he used to run out of his bedroom and sort of whip the bathroom door open and run down the hallway laughing. And I'm waiting in, the milliseconds, I'm waiting to hear his footsteps run down the hallway or to hear, laughing voice or what have you, and I don't hear anything. As I sort of turned to look to see if this chap was there, outside the bathroom, I can clearly see an older woman with sort of white hair, a flowing white robe, like a shift, if you will, right? And we catch eyes. She kind of tilts her head and looks at me with no expression and stays there for about a second. And then turns her head and then continues on. So I had a really good, hard 5-second look at this, right? And it took those 5 seconds for me to realize what I'm seeing. And as I realized it, I ran downstairs and I was so horrified. And I don't know why I was horrified. There was nothing negative to it, but it's just the thought of seeing something that you immediately process as a paranormal or a ghost. So I ran downstairs, and this guy realizes with the look on my face that what I've been through, and he asked me, and I tell him, and he swears to this day that he didn't run by and open up the door. And I can swear that I saw what I saw. This wasn't a threatening thing, it was just so odd and so scary to have happen. In retrospect now, I believe that foolishly when we were children and we played with the Ouija board, that's a perfect storm for something negative, evil, or demonic to be allowed to sort of creep in. And I think we allowed it to creep in by opening it up with the Ouija board. And there's enough stories similar to mine. And a reasonable, logical mind has to draw some sort of conclusion from that. And you add on that I have experienced these things. They have happened to me.
There was a time during the 19th century when spiritualism and seances were all the rage. Our experts say that's when Ouija boards were introduced as a popular new toy. A toy that promised to help the untrained and the naive dabble in the supernatural. Greg and Sharon both think that playing with a Ouija board is what brought evil forces into their lives. Sharon believes she has put that evil behind her. But Greg, he wonders if the powers he unleashed still follow him to this day.
I've continued to have experiences to this day
To this day.
I've had a lot of other negative things happen in my life, and you could shrug them off to life. But now I don't know. Now I don't know if a negative energy hasn't decided to attach itself to me to try and weigh me down or usurp anything that I'm trying to achieve. At the end of the day, it's a little cathartic to be able to speak to it when it continues to happen. And with time and with age and with maturity, you're able to look and say, well, you're able to connect the dots a little bit. And they seem to point back to that. They seem to point back to that.
Mm-hmm.
That day, that summer afternoon, playing with a Ouija board innocently with my sister and her two friends.
I really warn against anybody even just saying, it's just a game, just a piece of wood. Well, you can make it out of cardboard too, and it'll do the same thing for you. If you have that presence of mind that you want to be in touch with the dark side, then that's exactly what's going to happen. But once you're in, it's almost like joining a gang in New York. Once you're in, it's hard to get out, really hard to get out. So it really took years to finally get to that point where I feel that we're free. So always watching out for it, though. Always watching out.
You go, girl. All right, so she's not wrong. Now, your mileage may vary. I've had this discussion multiple times, and I'm not going to dip into it very deep tonight. But here's the thing. Anything where you reach out and give permission for something to come in and you don't know what it is, whether you're answering a stranger's phone or we used to say payphone walking down the street. You don't know who you're talking to. You don't know who you're inviting in. And you're giving them permission to use your energy. That's a testable test, if you ask me. I mean, there's probably, hundreds of thousands of stories of people that used a board and nothing ever happened, or they never put the two and two together and nothing ever did. But I can tell you this, and this you can lay down as fact. There are not a lot of high vibrational beings wandering around stuck on Earth waiting for some teenagers to pull a Ouija board out from underneath the bed and have a seance. You're going to get low vibrational beings that are wandering around that are there to catch the call, if you know what I mean. So if you've got something in your house, if you've got something in the street, if something's just wandering in and out of portal or some other kind of thing, you're spinning the wheel. Spin away. Don't call me at 3:00 in the morning to come get you untangled out of that mess, because Lord knows I get the calls. People get so mad at me. I start to think, listen to me. Answer just what I'm asking you. There's a reason I'm doing this. You need to calm down. Well, I understand you're upset. Listen to my words. Answer only what I'm asking you. Do not add to the story. Listen to my word. And I'm trying to get their vibration down, and they're fighting me the whole time. Those people I told you that jump into the ocean, and you jump in and they fight you and beat the shit out of you while you're trying to pull them out, and you're going, breathe, and you're trying to keep them from swallowing water, and they're just such a mess, and they just keep kicking around about drowning you. You finally get them to the shore, and you feel like you've used your last ounce to save their ass, and you turn around and some bitch jumps back in. Well, after a while, have at it. Good luck. You better kick harder. You know what I mean? There are people like that in your life. So again, we get these calls, and there's a reason you go into this mode of, I know the way out of this hole. You asked me to get in this hole with you. And now you're fighting me as I'm telling you what I need you to do to help yourself come out of this hole. Because if you don't do these things, you're going to be in this hole. I'm going to be out of this hole eating hot wings and drinking a cold beer. And you're going to be in this hole because I'm only going to put up with this nonsense for so long. Now I'm here. You need to listen. And people get mad. Say, oh, she got an attitude. You damn Skippy got an attitude. I know what we're fighting. Now I can leave it here with you. Or we can do something about this. But you see what I mean? There's there's a way to go about these things. You don't jump in and start crying and getting all upset with everybody. No, that just makes the whole room worse. Meanwhile, this thing is feeding off of that. And you can't get these people to calm down. Calm down. This is what we're good. This is what we're going to do. You know, this is why we need bring back the Barb Stanwyck. Oh, pow. You know, listen to me. Focus. This is what we're going to do. Because you're not dragging me down in here with you. Now, you can do what I'm telling you to do. You can listen to me, or you can hang up and call somebody else. Either way, I got stuff to do, you know. Or you can kick this thing's ass. Your choice. And people get upset by that. But I'll tell you what, if I was going to call somebody, if my kids were floating around and the dog in the living room, and I'd messed with the Ouija board, and I'd gone through the phone book, and who you going to call, and you wind up talking to somebody, that's who I want on the other end. This is what we're going to do. Yes, ma'am. What do you need? You need me to boil some water? Do you need me to get some salt, put it in the corner? Tell me what you need. You know, we'll do it. I'm all ears. Let's get the show on the road. I mean, don't you want that? Or do you want somebody that's like, I know, it's so hard. Let's keep wallowing in it. Just keep feeding it. I know one lady got so mad at me because I said, ma'am, listen to what I'm saying. You won't stop talking about everything your kids are going through, the pain in your voice, the energy you're putting out. It's standing right behind you, feeding off your fear. I'm asking you to stop doing that and listen to me and do what I'm telling you to do. You asked me for help. This is what help looks like. This is where we're at. Does this make sense? I know it's harsh. You know, it's an acquired taste. All right, so what are you dealing with? What has this kind of power? It seems like a variety of flavors, right? This could be evil. It could be ancient. It could be all of it, all the above. Could be a nice ghost that's just wanting to stop by and, you know, help steer you in another direction, pun intended, with the whole car thing. This happened to me. The whole enchilada. Me asking for help, taking 3 more steps. Car. What? In the middle of the story is so long. Like I said, it's in the book. Thank you for dropping that. I have the best mods. I love you guys. Thank you for keeping me as close to on the track as possible. But sometimes these episodes do take the route that they take. They really do. And they're out there to help. If any of this helps, even if my little story about how people get mad at me of how I am on the phone, look, you've asked me for help. I've already read your energy. You've given me the gist of what's going on. You don't have to go over the whole thing. You're feeding it. It's right. You know, whatever's going on. Listen to the person you called to ask for help. You know, I understand there's a level of anxiety on this globe right now that is off the fucking charts. I've never seen anything like it. It's the one thing it's got to be in the food or the chemtrails or direct energy, something or other. I don't know what it is. A combination. Maybe it's the gluten. I don't know. Maybe it's in the peanuts. I remember going to school and being able to take cupcakes in. Every fat ass kid in that whole goddamn class had a cupcake. Nobody was allergic. Nobody asked. Look, if there was the one-off kid in that class, bless their heart, that was allergic to something, the kid knew it. If the kid was allergic to shellfish or shrimp or something like that, that kid knew if he ate somebody's whatever, it was going to, he wouldn't eat it. He didn't drag the whole class through it. The whole class didn't have to sit down and make a circle of support for his lack of shellfish in his life. You got on with it. You ate the cupcake. You got on with it. Now, holy crap. You can't even show a picture of a cupcake now without getting a note home from school. Or an email now. I don't even know if you get notes. I can't tolerate it. Thank God. Thank God I don't have children in school. Thank God. The Board of Education is very glad that I am out of their system a long time ago. I got a call once and they told me I must come to a meeting. Okay. I'll see you there. Don't get me started. Okay. So anyway, how are they doing this? I don't know. So I went to Grok and I got a little feedback and I thought it was really cool. So I thought I'd share it with you. So we talked last week about poltergeist activity, and I think that's part of it. And apparently Grok thought so too. So when I asked about this, the first thing that came up, about to drop my phone, was the poltergeist activity. And I thought that was very interesting because, like I said, we just did this last week. So it might be a continuation. I don't know. Maybe my guide, your guide, somebody needs us to start understanding a little bit more of this now. Because, listen, if you're going to go on investigations, if you're going to poke around, if you're going to buy a haunted house, if you're going to be involved in this, I think it helps to understand a little bit more about the mechanism the other side's got, good or bad. Because when something like that happens to a friend or a family member or somebody that comes to you for help or guidance, you've got to tell them the hardest thing is to back away from the situation, like the first story, the trucker. Well, what did we hear after that? You're not always going to be alone. Hang in there. Right? It seemed very profound for the man. Although he wasn't thinking of hurting himself or anything else. At least they didn't tell us that. But it could be something as profound as that. It could be something, like I said earlier, that's headed towards a track of something. Maybe you're just a little broke now. It's Monday. By next Tuesday, we might be thinking of robbing a bank and screwing up your life. Maybe this is when something like this comes in. But I don't believe it has to be that profound. And I think it's important to know that point and understand that point and not let us miss the little things, because the little things can really be big things. I had it happen the other day. I'm at work and all of a sudden I start the song Wichita Lineman comes into my mind. It's got to be one of the top most beautiful songs I think ever written. And Glenn Campbell did it back in 1968 and just blew us away with it. I mean, it's a beautiful song. It's just about this hardworking guy out, working the line in Wichita, and he misses home and he misses his girl, I mean, it's just one of those songs. Wichita Lineman. I can't tell you the last time I heard this song. It was probably when Glenn Campbell was going through his last days and going through all of that, and they were playing his songs and stuff. It's probably been that long. Why this popped into my head, I have no idea. Yes, I've always thought it was a beautiful song. If you asked me my top 100, it would definitely be in there. Probably in the top 20. It's just gorgeous. I said it out loud. I'm like, Wichita Lineman, where's that coming from? I said it out loud for my coworker to hear because we're always talking about music. So it just popped into my head. I said, out of nowhere, Never. I said, now, wouldn't that be something if I got in the car and that was playing on the radio? I said, blow my mind. And I said it out loud. I didn't think any more of it. Well, I'd like to tell you I got in my car and it came on the radio, but that didn't happen. The next day, I come out of work, get in my car, turn the key, and the first notes of Wichita Lineman started to play. And I was so dumbfounded, I sat there and listened to the whole damn thing. What did it mean? I have no freaking idea. But it happened. And now I'm telling you about it. So, I don't know. But what are the chances? I don't know. Maybe we should ask Grok. So anyway, poltergeist activity. The definition, again, covered it last week. German for noisy spirit. Activity involves physical disturbances such as objects moving, environmental changes, sudden temperature shifts, illusionary fire. So they could produce this phenomena. Okay. So they're part of this, whatever poltergeist is. And I think in this case, it covers both types of poltergeist we were talking about last week with Steve. The manifestation of an energy from the living, or because of the living, maybe a mixture of the living and the dead, past experiences in that spot. We've talked all about this. I think both of them could fit in this category. However, it's hard for me to imagine how a mass of energy thinks on its own. That's a little crazy. Could it? I would imagine so. So think about that, right? So these events are often tied to specific location or person and can include visual manifestations that alter the perceived environment without living physical evidence. So basically, Grok's telling us that, does this really go along with the Telly Savalas story? Maybe not. The poltergeist manifest, I wouldn't say that. It doesn't really fit for me. But in some of the other cases, yeah, for sure. The kid with the Ouija board and the dark figure in the fire, not so much for me. Your theory might differ from that. Characteristics: temporary vivid changes in the environment, a room appearing to burn but reverting back to normal, has all the hallmarks. These are often attributed to intense and emotional energy, sometimes from a living person, a stressed teenager, or restless spirit. So again, could be in a combination of multiple things. So why does it fit the category of what we're talking about tonight? So my example I threw at it was example of manifesting a room on fire, much like the kid with the Ouija board, right? Your example of a room appearing to be on fire, then returning to normal with no damage, aligns with poltergeist phenomena where the environment is manipulated in dramatic but non-permanent ways. Makes sense to me. So poltergeist, possibly part of this category. What's next? What else did they throw at us? Environmental hauntings, interactive hauntings, which is what we're talking about tonight. Definition: these hauntings involve spirits or entities manipulating the physical environment in ways that are noticeable to the senses, such as altering the appearance of a room, creating illusions, or causing objects to move. Unlike poltergeist activities, these may be tied to specific spirit with historical connection to the location. So there's your separation there from the poltergeist. It's actually something that had maybe a connection to the location, or something in the home, or the person in the home, or something along those lines. And I'd broaden that a little bit to say anything in that area, say a local accident or something like that. And we usually say that because it seems to be a certain area people wander if they're stuck to a certain location, much like our friends in the Times of Their Lives, Abbott and Costello, where they were stuck to the well for whatever reason. In that case, they were cursed. But in this case, they're almost self-cursed because they're staying to what they know, but they're caught in almost like a loop. Not necessarily a residual, but a small area. And a light comes on close by to that area. Say somebody has abilities in this home, or there's more spirits in this home because there was actually something going on in this dwelling, and all of a sudden it notices and it winds up there. That can happen. Does that make sense? All right, characteristics. The environment may shift dramatically. Furniture rearranging itself, walls bleeding, always a favorite, or rooms transforming, but revert without physical trace. So there's no damage left behind. Nothing got changed physically. It was momentary. These are often tied to residual energy or spirit's intent to communicate. Okay, we're getting a little personality thrown in there. Now it's the spirit doing it for attention or to communicate, such as maybe burning a book. Again, if that book happens to be a Bible and bursts into flames, then all of a sudden everybody starts thinking it's a message for something much darker. So again, it's your perception of the person that's visualizing these things, not just what they're trying to say, because a lot of times we get it wrong. We read too much into it. We get too close to it, too emotionally attached. We start throwing our own stuff in there. And I think that's what mucks it up sometimes. Very hard not to do that, but just saying it for fact, right? So the fire manifestations or objects changing a room aligns with this category and involves temporary, vivid environmental changes. Okay. Makes perfect sense. It goes along with everything we're saying. Crisis apparitions or guardian angel encounters. Now, here's a little bit more of like our truck driver. Okay. The definition: crisis apparitions are ghostly figures, often deceased loved ones or unknown entities. It could be either one. Well, it could be a lot of things, to tell you the truth, that appear during moments of need, delivering guidance or protection before vanishing. These may be interpreted as guardian angels or spiritual interventions. There's your divine intervention, Vixen. So again, I've had both happen. Well, yes, both of those things happen. One of them several times. So pulling me from the bus, pulling me out of the ocean when I was drowning, multiple things I'm sure I can't even remember at this point. And I want you to count yours too. That's why I keep telling you about mine. I think if we let ourselves count these little milestones on our journey, it gives us strength for the rest of the journey that is about to come. Plus, I think it gives us more wisdom for the journey that's ahead. That sounds so trivial, but I think that's, as a whole, each one of these stories is really for everybody. You know, they're cautionary tales. They're you know, so many different things depending on what you really want to get out of them. But I think they're also milestones for your journey because, again, it's like those greatest lessons. What do they always say? It's like the greatest knowledge I ever got was, you know, from making bad decisions and living through it, you know, because you learn not to do that anymore. You learn so many things. And, you know, that other short version, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Both are true. But they all have to do with this kind of thing. And I think there is helpers along the way. And not necessarily all of them from a divine source, because we've got just regular ghosts that are, I know for a fact, that are walking around helping strangers because they connect in that energy. It's a familiar energy. That person, the living person, is going through something that the dead person is familiar with, and it attracts them. Make sense? Okay. So why it fits your example. Oop, there's my phone again. Your example of mysterious ride or lunch. So what I was talking about when I was talking to Grok, let me fix this. Oh my gosh. Equipment. Where's my roadies at? All right. I was that's right. I was asking Grok about like the mysterious ride. So like the ride I got, and then, you know, this guy sitting down and actually, you know, meeting somebody on the road, and then sitting down and eating with them and having conversation and everything else. I mean, very profound, a long amount of time spent with this person, and then all of a sudden him and his truck gone. So that's what I was asking about. Or lunch with a stranger who vanishes after delivering a profound message fits this category perfectly. Yes, it does. So crisis apparitions. I love that. I love what it says, but I also wanted you guys to make sure it's not just necessarily in a crisis. So I don't want you to write off something that might happen, like the song on the radio, like the person in line that says the word. All of a sudden you hear sassy fresh, you go, wait a minute, what? And then you try to talk yourself out of something like that, you know, that's that profound. And we still try to talk ourselves out of it. So here was another example, and I don't want to bring that one in yet, but Morley Rectory is a good example of this. I wanted to show you another one before we run out of time, because this is about 10 minutes long. So this one really puts it all together. So you got a little bit about what Grok thinks about these type of apparitions. I think this could actually be another show, because I want to bring in some more examples. And I think it's neat to try to understand this, because I think that's one of the things that really throws us all off is How can I walk in on a case with, you have 3 other mediums that all go in, and everybody's trying to sort this, and nobody knows that much about the house, and we know there's something going on there, and this entity presents itself 3 different ways to 3 different people all at the same time. That's a mind blower. I think it's equally as mind blowing as, what our friend there with the Ouija board was going through, and just the whole room goes up in flames. Again, I experienced similar. I can tell you, going through that, it's like being in a car and all of a sudden a tire blows, and you're going down the road pretty good speed, and all of a sudden you've lost control and everything. Your adrenaline, there's no time for it to, it's just wah, and it's just full tilt boogie all at once. And you don't even know the moves you're making. We've all done it. And you're making move, and you don't even know. It's like somebody else had the wheel. That happened to me recently. I mean, I swear I wish I had the dash cam on that, because there was a phone call going on. I didn't have my hands, I was hands free, but they heard it on the other side, and it's just like, what the hell was that? And I'm like, I said, that wasn't the first words out of my mouth. That was not me. I did not just do that. I mean, this car backs up, is a white van, just shoots out of this hidden driveway, pulls in front of me. I'm going to just T-bone this van. And I look, I'm only doing like 35, but it was raining a little, So there's cars coming towards me, but I had enough time. Now, if you believe that, if I was to tell you that I had time to think and look at this and assess that I could get across against traffic and wind up riding the shoulder on the opposite lane, and I had a clear path to do all this stuff in a curvy road, and then once that traffic passed, turn behind these 4 cars that were coming at me, go in between them, and wind up back in my right lane and keep on going like nothing happened, you wouldn't believe me, but it happened. We've all had stuff like that happen. Did something jump in, take the wheel? I don't know. Was it muscle memory and I just blanked out? I don't know. I've had a lot of driving training. I'm not the best driver in the world, but I've had enough training in the Army where muscle memory does come back even after decades. Ask any soldier that's ever been in a crisis, that'll tell you. It's just boom, 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 and they just do it. So maybe a little of that. I don't know. But I have no memory making and processing any decision. Like I'm going to, that's how fast it was. And then just continued the call. The phone was on the floor, I'm sure. But hey, I'm okay. It wasn't me. I don't know what just happened. But it's just let yourself have those moments. Understand that you're worthy enough to have a higher vibrational being jump in and take the wheel for you and fix your little mistake. Yes, so you just can get back on track and continue your day, because you are that important. You are that important. All things bright and beautiful. All living things. You heard Cousin Chow say it. Right? And I want everybody to know that it's not just the big profound stuff. But then we're really low, and we start getting all these doubts, and we start just kicking ourselves and self-doubting and self-cursing as I can't do it, and I can't find the job, and I can't send another email, and I can't, pick up the kids' toys one more time, and I can't talk to that woman, and I can't do whatever the I can'ts are. I can't go back into work, and I can't do a better job, and I can't apply for this job. I'm not good enough. I can't, stop. I can. I think I can. Stop self-cursing yourself. And stop taking away the little mile markers that whoever is sending them that has good intent is trying to show you. That a girl, that a boy. You got over another hurdle. You got around another mountain. You opened another locked door. You opened a window. Whatever it was, If you think the last decade was something, wait till you get a load of what's coming. And you're going to need this. So pay attention. You're going to need this pat on the back. Pay attention. It's a gift. And sometimes the messages are subtle. Sometimes they are scary AF. And here's one that is scary AF. I'm going to leave you with a scary one tonight. And the reason being is because we tend in this, and again, I get it. People don't want, they're looking for paranormal shows or whatever, and I'm long for them, and I get all the things. I don't care. I'm here for this. And they're missing it. And they're not getting it, and they're going out there, and they're, every time the board cracks, it's this or it's that. It's a demon. They're screwing around with stuff they shouldn't be messing around with. They're in there talking to serial killers. They're laying on the graves of the victims of these people. I don't know what you're doing. But eventually, it's going to catch up with you. This stuff exists. It's nothing to mess with. I'm not saying don't do it, but maybe don't be so arrogant about it. Don't be so flippant about it. Don't be so cavalier, Don't be so stupid. Because there's people that really care and really have a heart in this. Not that you don't, but have a heart in this on the other side that are trying to pick up all of the mess and trying to save the kids that have the abilities and don't know what to do with it and keep going down the wrong road because it's more interesting and it's flashier and it's more exciting and it's like, ooh, the power. Yeah, the power costs dearly. There's plenty of power out there. It's totally different. So that's why I'm doing this, because this stuff exists. This happens. And it happens when you least expect it. And it comes to test your faith. And if you don't have something, well, like Cousin Cho said earlier, there tends to be no atheists in foxholes. So let's see what we have here to take us out. Well, see that? Was that loud enough? I'm going to pass a couple of these because we're going to pick them up another night. But I want to finish off with this fairly. This guy's a musician. A magician, excuse me. And he's really got a good story too. We'll catch that one another night. I got one for you. Here we go. About 10 minutes and we're out of here.
Sometimes you think, I don't know, it's possible. It was a dream, even though I thought it wasn't a dream. Or maybe some form of temporary psychosis. But when you see something like that, when it leaves some physical evidence that you have there, how can I deny that?
Fight or flight? Maybe it depends on the danger. Maybe it depends on the person. But I think most of us would fight tenaciously if our lives or our family's lives were threatened. But what if the danger was coming from a ghost? That would make the fight a little more complicated. How could we possibly defend ourselves against the paranormal? Hi, I'm Lawrence Chow. Today in Ghostly Encounters, we'll meet a man and a woman who both tell of being attacked by demons and ghosts. Both fought back instead of giving in to fear. And for Victor Trantos, the choice to fight was a no-brainer because he believed the demon was about to kill him.
I remember lying on the bed sleeping with my partner. I look at the clock, I went back, I drift back to sleep, and I started dreaming that I was lying in bed right where I was. In the darkness somehow stir and change form in the room. The room was about half dark, so you could still see a lot of things, the furniture, what was in the room. And all of a sudden, there was this creature sitting on me on my chest. It had a round, ugly head. He was slightly hunched. What I remember was his eyes. He had very, very powerful yellow eyes, And immediately I felt a pressure and a coldness and numbness starting from toes of my feet, and it kept coming up. It kept coming like really quickly into the rest of my body. My toes were freezing and this cold kept going up my body. It felt like a deep cold, almost like a liquid cold. From whatever that cold was touching, I felt like the life was coming out of it. So I thought by the time it reaches my head, I'll die. As I was looking at that creature, as it was sitting on me, I would look inside the body. It's a very strange feeling. There's no word to exactly describe. And I saw like it was like a blackness, a really, really dark blackness that was drawing me in. It looked like a night, as you look at the night sky, but without stars. I had the feeling that he actually either wanted to kill me or get inside me. It looked like a spirit that you see in pictures, in old books, in old drawings. It looks like something that really came out of hell. There's no other way to describe it. I was trying to wake my partner so she could see that thing, and I couldn't speak. I couldn't master any sound. I didn't have enough strength to squeeze her, to wake her. I wasn't able to because I was paralyzed. Only my eyes would move. He was so strong, like he seemed to have immense strength. I felt like a mountain was sitting on me. His power was incredible. I didn't have a chance to survive it. I thought I didn't like this dream, so I wanted to just get out of it. So what I did, I woke myself up. And that creature was still on me, even though I passed from a state of being asleep into the waking state. I got really terrified because I didn't know you can only wake up once. You can wake again to get out of this. And what I did, the first thing that came to my mind is to start praying. When I was back home in Sunday school, we had a picture of Jesus on the wall. And I remember it was Jesus on the donkey on his way to Jerusalem. And that's the picture that came into my mind. As soon as I brought that picture into my mind, that creature backed off in horror. And then it grabbed me again. I prayed to Jesus. I say, Jesus, just save me. I say that in my mind. The second time it just let go and it floated away. There was no wings, no flapping, no sound. It just moved and it disappeared from the room where the ceiling meets the wall. It just left the room. So the only thing that saved me was that prayer. And at the same time I felt something different. I was able to move, and I felt a presence right next to me, a very warm presence, something like an angel or someone who really cares for you. I don't know what it was because I couldn't see anything. I just had the feeling it was right there next to me. So I tried to touch that, whatever it was that was there, but I couldn't see it or touch it. I just knew it was there. As I got up, I was really shaken. I decided I have to get up and go and brush my teeth and get ready to go to work. So as soon as I stepped in the bathroom, I looked in the mirror and I saw the cross that I was always wearing. It was gone. The chain was still around my neck, but the cross was gone. I went back to the bed and I found the cross fell between my body and my partner's. I picked up the cross and then I noticed the link that links the cross and the chain was intact. The link wasn't open, and yet somehow the cross came off the chain. I started sobbing. So she woke up and asked me, what's the matter with me? What's wrong? So I told her the whole story. And I just didn't know what to think. Because you notice that the cross also, the link was closed. And I believe this is the strongest piece of evidence that this thing happened, this thing was real. Somehow that creature caused that cross to fall off the chain. Obviously it could tolerate the cross, but it couldn't tolerate the fact that I was thinking of Jesus. And it left. I believe it's some kind of a spirit, a malevolent spirit, which is called an incubus. If it's male, if it's a female, it's called a succubus. And people usually have sexual experiences with those spirits. In my case, it was nothing sexual. I had the feeling that he just wanted to kill me. And if it wasn't for me praying at the right time, I think I wouldn't be sitting here right now. It affected my religious beliefs because I had my own beliefs. I did believe in God and I believe in Jesus too, but I wasn't giving it much thought because I always had doubts about it. You have to rethink everything. And you see a totally new angle of things in life. It actually changes you as a person because you're thinking you want to be a good person, because if this thing is real, if this demon is real, like what else is real? Does that mean that everything is real? Does that mean angels are real? Is God real? What if we die and we go to hell? So is there a heaven? Like, it makes you, all these questions go through your mind after when you see an apparition like this. The whole incident, I can tell you in some ways it has changed my life.
Across cultures, almost every folk and religious tradition involves beliefs about demons of some sort. And it doesn't seem to matter how religious or how unreligious we are. When we believe we are confronting supernatural forces, we generally fall back on the religion of our childhood. And so it's not surprising that Victor went straight to Jesus and Christianity when he needed to defend himself.
That one got me. Those hands were creepy. Woo. All right. So there you go. I mean, that pretty much says it all, doesn't it? There it is. So here's the thing. This is why when I talk about this kind of stuff, I am like I am. I'm not trying to be. I'm just saying we know it works. You see what I mean? And we know what causes it in certain people who have cracks in their windshield they may not even know about. And when we have these beings come along in our lifetime, we're not even aware. We're busy going to work. We're getting a cup of coffee. We can barely find our shoes half the time. Trying to fight traffic. We're having the road rage. We're trying to listen to the news. We're trying not to listen to the news. We're wondering if, where's my money in the bank? Why am I getting charged this? What's going on? How much is that? What the hell? What happened to my paycheck? When did all this happen? Suddenly people are waking up and going, my grandfather raised 5 kids, you worked in the same factory for 30 something years, go watch pension, built a house with his own hands from a house out of the Sears freaking catalog. And grandma stayed home and took care of the kids. And grandpa, when it was time to come home, wait till your father gets home. He, handed out the discipline and the listen to your mothers and the let me see your report cards. And kids went to school and they minded their business and they respected themselves for the most part, or they hid it better than they do today. That's for sure. And now 2 people can't buy a house and manage to raise a kid and a half. It's hard. And how did that happen? People are waking up and things are coming back, but this is the basis. We don't even understand how this works. And we're just living human beings trying to figure it out. And I think this deserves another episode of trying to figure out what is the psychological components to how does a ghost that was human, that is the essence left behind by someone who has passed but not crossed over have the ability to get into your dreams and manipulate what you see, feel, and experience? That's a great question. I think it deserves looking into. Now let's flip it. How do they do it while you're wide awake? And what would they have to be able to do to make that happen, to pull that off? Okay, so tomorrow night we've got Steve. We are going to add another episode to the Tapestry series for JFK, pulling on some more threads. This is a major thread. It is a major thread. It is a thread called the Secret Service. And I was lucky enough to reach out to, well, get an answer, and reached out to Vince Palomara, who is, I'd say, the citizen researcher, journalist, specialist on the Secret Service. Not just during JFK's time, but he's done quite the research. He's got 7 different books on it. He has been studying the JFK assassination via the standpoint of the Secret Service for a very long time. So a lot of the questions you guys have of, did Greer turn around and shoot Kennedy while driving with both hands on the steering wheel? He can answer that question. He has talked to Kinney. He has talked to Cliff Hill. He has spoken to Lance and some of the other ones in person, as well as uncovered some very profound things having to do with the Secret Service that quiets a lot of the lies that were originally told about JFK and who was that didn't want that took the bubble top off, who had the power to change that. Why wasn't that on when it was on other parades that it wasn't raining? Why were Secret Service agents not on the car? And who was the one who gave the order for them to be off? Who was in charge of that? This is the guy who knows. His last book, I believe, was just released a couple of weeks ago. And the title off the top of my head, I believe, is President Kennedy Should Have Survived Dallas. And he knows that if the Secret Service has just done their job by protocol, that Kennedy would not have been, it would not have turned out that way. However, we all know, and so does Vince, that they tried to kill him in Chicago and Tampa and multiple other times. So, and if he had made it through Dallas, I can tell you right now, via other many sources, is that there was a barbecue that was scheduled at LBJ's ranch that afternoon. And if they didn't get him in Dealey Plaza, they were going to get him there. He wasn't leaving Dallas alive. So, again, do your own research. All that information is out there. You can find it yourself. You can watch my episodes. I think there's like 7 of them now. Tomorrow might be 8. But Vince is joining us tomorrow night. We have him for an hour. Steve and I will be here. And basically, I'm just going to push the button and get him started and let him go, because trying to get everything on this in an hour is going to be really something. He could go on for 2 or 3 just in the day of Dallas alone. But there's a few things I want you to hear from him, since he's heard it from basically the horse's mouth in a lot of ways. I want some of these lies squashed. At least you guys will know, and you can pass along the information of lies have been told for 60 years about JFK. There's plenty to tell that was true. We don't need to make shit up, just like in the paranormal. Facts are facts, and facts don't care about anybody's damn feelings. It was a man. He was our president. No matter how you felt, they shot him dead at 12:30 in the afternoon on a somewhat sunny afternoon in Dallas, Texas, in front of God and everybody. It should have never happened. I don't care if it's 60 years. I don't care if it's 100 years. I did just as many on Lincoln. But the thing is, it's a damn shame that people think they can do this and get away with it. And, you know, people that still to go to bed at night and think that they can't and they won't, and that they've got this like illusions of grandeur and all that kind of stuff, need to wake the hell up, because it's never going to change till people see it, put it right out front, keep an eye on it. You know what I'm saying? Learn from history. We're destined to repeat it. Right? So there's that. Vince will be with us tomorrow night. I hope you'll be here too. It'll be a really nice episode and chapter, thread to pull on tomorrow night. So get your questions ready. I don't know how much time there'll be for questions. I'm telling you, once the man gets talking, this is somebody who's studied this, as long as I've been in the paranormal. I think he was 18, looked into it and got started and been going ever since. And he's really made some profound differences in the research on the murder of JFK, and he won't, he won't settle on what he, this or that. He used to, a couple decades ago, he had like an ending to it, but now he just basically studies the Secret Service and says if they had done their job. Now, just branch out from that. He's willing to go out, but he's also got to sell books, and you don't close a lot of doors when you have to go to a lot of conventions and things like this. It's a really hard group. Boy, you think dogmen, UFO people getting together with Bigfoot is rough. No offense to anybody, but holy God, if you've not been to a convention when they all get started and get arguing, and it's ugly, it's downright ugly. But it can get that way in the JFK stuff too. It's like JFK, did nothing. He didn't do this. He did do it. Listen, facts, just the facts, ma'am. And the facts speak for themselves. We don't need all the added colors, because we very rich, powerful groups have had 60 years to muddy the waters here. We don't need them stirred up again. Let's just deal with the facts. Just take a breath. I'll see you tomorrow night. Okay? I love y'all. Thanks for being here tonight. These are fun. I love looking at these stories and trying to learn from them. But again, it was very interesting talking to Grok. We pulled up some more stuff. I think it's worth going over, because any kind of wisdom you can get from this, as far as even strengthening your theories, giving you new theories, making you think about a little deeper on this. If you're a researcher or you're just looking for answers about your own experiences, you can't just be flippant about the paranormal. There's so many layers, Ask Derek, who just jumped in here. Hey, sweetie, how you doing, Will? There's so many layers to this. And this is one of those things that really confound you. It's like, how could you be in a room and everybody see that elevator open and see what they saw and experience it? How could that young man be standing in his hotel room and all of a sudden the curtains, the whole wall just goes up in flames? So real. And then stop. It's very interesting. Power of perception. Right? One way to look at something, and I think we apply that to our own lives. I'm trying to do that in my own too. So I love y'all. I see you tomorrow night. We're going to dance our way out of here. And again, our movie is, did y'all put up your vampire stuff on the way out? Throw up those vampire movies coming up for our Bite Me Summer. And again, I don't know. I don't know what I really don't think at this point in time I can pick my favorite vampire, and I'm really trying to decide between a showing of Dracula or Interview with Vampire. And I got to be honest, Interview with Vampire is not one of my favorites. 30 Days of Night, that's a really good one. That's definitely on the list. But it's hard to put my finger on why. I love the period, the history of it. And I love the period costumes and the whole shebang. But there's just something about it that didn't sit right with me. And it's hard for me to put my finger on it. So there's others. I got to tell you, as far as tradition and legend and lore and following the rules. Oh, yeah. Dracula's definitely on that list for me as far as a good one. But it's very long and drawn out, and there's a lot. But so is the novel, so you got to kind of give it that. But as far as following the rules stuff, I think Underworld is one of the best. I really think Underworld is, especially the first one, with Victor and everybody. So anyway, I'm thinking about all those. Keep throwing out those ideas. I love you all. We're going to dance out of here. Keep throwing those ideas up. And don't forget, Near Dark is Tuesday night. If you're not on our Rumble, get over there now. It's free. What are you waiting for? Get over there, click the follow, and join the chat. We have a blast. And what else what else you doing on a Tuesday? Tuesday night. It's an hour and a half. Come on in, spread a little love, get down tonight, right? I can't believe that song just popped in my head. Get out of here. I gotta go. Love y'all. Good night. Be good humans.